I truly believe one of the most powerful healing tools we have is our mind. And it's often overlooked, and we're told it's drugs, it's something else, it's the magic pill that you have to take that'll cure you. But you experienced this firsthand. You have your own hero story. Can you start there of kind of where you got into this and what made you want to become the Taylor Swift of personal development?
Yeah, thank you. That's a new thing I'm trying on, but I like it. I
I
like it.
like it.
Because of the impact that and the ability to impact others that comes with it. So I was actually living in New York City, and I was like everyone that decides to move across the world to go to New York. I was after my dreams, and I had a clear vision of what my life was going to be. And I just landed my dream job at the time with MTV. It was super cool back in the day. This is like 2012. This was like, I watched this on TV, and somehow I ended up in these offices. And I remember it was like my second week working there, and I was like, MTV, it's Kaitlin, it's mom. And I could barely make out what she was saying. And she was hysterical. And I could just hear her say, Sean's missing. Sean is my brother. And I'd never experienced anything like that in my life. I grew up like, very positive, very like believer in, I didn't come from a lot, but I just always believed that things could happen. And that's how I made my way from a small town in Florida to New York. And this was the first time in my life that I had ever gotten like such shocking news. And I wound up leaving New York City to fly to where my parents were, Louisville, Kentucky. When my mom called, I was looking for pictures for the police. And I share this because it's such a vital point in my story of getting ill. And so my dad wound up finding my brother in a park. He was blue. His eyes were rolled back in his head. And my dad started to give him CPR. And thankfully, by the time the ambulance came, he had gotten my brother to this shallow breath. But by the time I had flown from New York to where they were in Kentucky, my brother was in a coma. And I just remember my dad picking me up at the airport, prepping me, like, if he wakes up, we're not sure. We really think he's going to be brain dead. So you kind of have to prep yourself for this, Kate. And I remember walking into his hospital room, and I just saw him in this coma, like hooked up to all of these tubes. And I just got on my knees to pray, whatever it is you believe in. Sometimes you're in these moments and you're just asking for something bigger than you to help because you don't know what to do. And I was praying, and I was just saying, please just give me what he has. Just give me what he has. I can take it. I'm strong. Like, let him wake up. Let him be okay. And I share this as the beginning to the story because I don't believe that God, source, infinite intelligence, whatever it is you believe in, that higher power works in that way. But I do believe in the power of our mind, and specifically our subconscious mind. And somehow in that moment, I planted a seed in my mind that if my brother was going to be okay, I couldn't. And I, of course, did not know this at the time. I just was desperate. But you start to look, there's many stories of this where people say, give me that. And then a child gets better, but that the dad develops cancer or whatever the condition may be. This is actually more common than you would think after researching this. But that was like the beginning of me starting to like plant a seed in my mind that I could even be ill. I could even not be well. And thank God, by like the grace of all that is, my brother woke up a week later, and he was able to get his cognitive abilities back, and he was able to walk again and talk again. And a month later, I was in the hospital. I was back in New York, and I had started to get sick. And I started having all these stomach problems. And you can also say this is an enormous amount of stress as well, right? You have to, that's a factor in this whole situation. Like the stressors in life, like they do affect our body, and everything, in my opinion, disease is some kind of outside condition, thought, belief, stressor that is manifesting in your body. And so I was going to all these doctors. I was in and out of the hospital. My stomach was bleeding. They wound up telling me I had celiac disease, which at the time wasn't trendy. There were no gluten-free pizzas or donuts. I was like, what does this even mean? Yeah. But I, started cutting out all of the food and all of the gluten and stopped eating the like $2 slices in New York and all the things I was living off of. And, but I didn't get better. And so this was just, it's a long story, but the condensed version of it is I started this mission of trying to figure out what was wrong and how to heal. And it was celiac disease, but when that didn't go away, more and more things started to develop. I left MTV. I was working for a sports company. I was doing this fantasy football show with DraftKings. It was like my dream job. I'm in a studio. And in the middle of doing interviews with different correspondents around the world, I'd stop talking. And my producer would be like, Kaitlin, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah. I had no recollection. I mean, I'm telling you, like lights out, no idea. And it got so bad that I would be in my apartment walking from room to room, like, what am I doing? Why am I here? My mom came to visit me and she was like, we went to the grocery store and she's like, Kate, we need cheese. And I'm not kidding you, Casper. I'm looking at her like, I have no idea what cheese is. And it was like my brain was just becoming this like mush. Like I was a complete shell of myself. And so more treatments, more tests. After like literally 2 years of trying to figure out what was wrong, I got diagnosed with neurological Lyme disease with multiple co-infections. So I'm like, okay, let's do the treatments. Okay, here we go. We're going to do antibiotics. We're going to do IV antibiotics. That's not working. We're going to do these droppers. We're going to do enemas. We're going to do chambers of intense heat and intense cold. And before any of this stuff was like, before anyone cold plunged or saunas, I was in there like doing everything to try to heal. And, at moments it would get a little bit better, but then it would get worse again. And then you go back to the drawing board because we're so obsessed as humans that we need to know what's wrong so that we can fix it. And when we look for those answers, we look outside of ourselves. So it's like, I'm going to go see this doctor and try this pill and do this treatment. And then I'll try this again. And everything is an external process. And so, doctors are doing the best they can, but the more I went to the doctor, the more I picked up more diagnoses and the more my body was responding. Whatever we focus on in life, wherever our attention is, our energy follows. And that's what we create more of. And you are all doing this. We all do this every day. The question is, are you doing it consciously or unconsciously? And so, my symptoms continued. My hair started falling out. I had a really hard time moving my right knee, like crazy. Like I couldn't walk around. Mobility was hard. I then started having more stomach problems. I wound up getting diagnosed with lupus. I'm like, okay, we got another one. So now I'm taking these medications that is like, I have to go to an optometrist because 3 out of 10 people have changes in their vision. And I'm like, how am I taking something that has these side effects that could even be worse? And then, the stomach problems happen again. And that was, this is like a 5-year journey I'm taking you through from 2012 to 2017 when it was starting to get so bad, my stomach problems. And I was having this really weird thing where I would be talking to you, but I would be like I couldn't get enough air in. And so I wound up flying to upstate New York to see a specialist. And he diagnosed me with a rare autoimmune called scleroderma. And so if you're not familiar, this has to do with the elasticity that you have in your body. And for a lot of people, it's pretty rare, but if it does affect people, it's usually exterior. So people will have shiny skin and they'll start to harden, but mine was affecting my internals. So my large and small intestine were beginning to harden. It was moving up through my heart into my throat, which was causing that. And I just remember being at his office and he's just looking at me and he's like, this is super aggressive. Here's your test. Here's what we're looking at. And, if it continues at this rate, at best, I'll give you 5 years. And I'm like, what?